You brush your teeth every morning without thinking twice about it. You've been taught that your ancestors lived simple lives: hunt, eat, sleep, repeat. But the real answer is far stranger. Ancient humans did things that would look completely bizarre if you saw them today. Not because they were foolish, because they were solving problems you've never had to think about, with tools you'd barely recognize. Let's start with something that sounds impossible. Ancient humans performed surgery on each other's skulls while the patient was still alive. Archaeologists call it trepanation, drilling, cutting, or scraping a hole directly into a living human skull. You'd expect this to be a death sentence. But researcher Miguel Bruno Faria, studying prehistoric skulls across Europe and South America, found something startling. A significant number of these skulls show clear signs of healing around the hole. Bone regrowth, smoothed edges, the kind of evidence that only forms if the person survived, sometimes for years afterward. Why would anyone do this? Some researchers believe it treated head injuries, releasing pressure from swelling or bleeding. Others believe it was used to treat seizures, migraines, or what ancient people understood as evil spirits trapped inside the skull. Either way, someone was performing brain surgery with stone tools and no anesthesia, tens of thousands of years before the invention of a hospital. Think about that the next time you complain about a headache. Here's another one that sounds like fiction. Ancient humans sometimes buried their dead sitting upright, facing the rising sun, surrounded by tools they hadn't even finished using. Archaeologist Vincenzo Formicola, examining burial sites from the Upper Paleolithic period, found bodies buried with extraordinary care. Beads sewn into clothing, thousands of them, one at a time, into fabric that decayed away thousands of years ago, leaving only the beads in the exact shape the clothing once held. This wasn't quick. Some of these burials would have taken weeks of labor to prepare. Why spend weeks preparing a body that will never move again? Because burial wasn't really about the person who died, it was about the people who remained. A public declaration that this life mattered enough to stop everything and remember it properly. You still do this today. You just call it a funeral. Now for something stranger. Ancient humans deliberately deformed the shape of their own skulls. Using tightly wrapped cloth, wooden boards, or cradle boards pressed against an infant's soft skull for months, entire communities across the ancient world, from parts of ancient Peru to regions of ancient France, gradually reshaped the human head into elongated, cone-like forms. You might assume this happened by accident. It didn't. Bioarchaeologist Deborah Blum, who has studied cranial modification across South America, found it was intentional, consistent, and deeply tied to identity. A stretched skull wasn't a deformity to these communities. It was a badge, a visible sign of belonging to a specific group, family, or social class. An infant's skull is soft enough to reshape permanently, without pain, without surgery, just gentle, sustained pressure over time. Somewhere, an ancient parent looked at a newborn and thought, "This child needs to look like us," and found a way to make that permanent using nothing but cloth. Here's one that might make you a little uncomfortable. In some ancient cultures, when someone died, their bones were dug back up years later, cleaned, painted, and passed around at community gatherings. This practice, sometimes called secondary burial, appears in numerous prehistoric sites across Europe and the Near East. The body would be buried first, allowed to decompose, and then unearthed. The bones would be cleaned, sometimes coated in red ochre pigment, and reintegrated into the world of the living. To modern eyes, this looks disturbing. To the people practicing it, death wasn't a hard line. It was a slow transition. The dead didn't disappear from the community. They simply changed form and stayed close. You keep photographs of people who have died. They kept bones. Different objects. Same instinct. Now for something that sounds almost unbelievable. Ancient humans intentionally knocked out or filed down their own teeth. Across multiple ancient cultures, from parts of prehistoric Africa to ancient Mesoamerica, archaeologists have found human remains with teeth deliberately chipped into points, filed flat, or removed entirely, all while the person was alive and healthy. This wasn't disease. It wasn't accident. The wear patterns and precision cuts show clear intentional modification. In some cultures, It marked the transition from childhood to adulthood. In others, it signaled status, beauty, or belonging to a specific group. Sharpened teeth in some societies were considered striking and attractive, the ancient equivalent.